My name is Max Davallo, of course, here at Sonic Dorms. Joining me is the great, the undisputed singer-songwriter that is Dani Hagan, one of my favorite singer-songwriters of probably the last, I'd say, 3, 4 years now, because I first got in touch with you about 3 years ago. It was someone recommended your music to me, and I said, wow, I cannot wait to speak to this singer-songwriter. And lo and behold, I discovered another awesome artist. So I greatly appreciate that. Dani, thank you so much for being here again in
Wow.
2025 with me.
What an introduction. And thank you. I feel so honored that you checked out my music. And I can't believe it's been 3 years already. That's wild.
Yeah, I was looking at my past emails. I was like, "Oh my God, Kim Britton re is who recommended me you to me," and I was like, "Oh my God, it's been 3 years already. That's crazy." But yeah.
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah, you were just putting out the I believe it was the Kissing You EP, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See? And I I immediately could tell that you were writing from a place that was very earnest. And to me, that's what I look for as a music listener. I'm like, can we have a little bit of honesty in there? I want to hear the voice, the personality behind the voice, I should say.
Mm.
And when you sing, it's obvious that it's coming from a real place, a deep place from within. And that's something that I've always admired. So I appreciate you for doing that because, you know what I mean? There's not a lot of artists that I hear these days that are doing it, I guess, in a way that's considered to be, this is ridiculous, but like old school. I feel like
Mhm.
to come from that OG singer-songwriter kind of approach, like the Sheryl Crows, the Alanis Morissette's kind of, that kind of vibe. And to me, that's what you harken back to. It's like, that's to me is where it's at. Let's go back even further. Dolly Parton. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Well, to be in the same sentence as any of those artists is the greatest compliment to me. So thank you. And the music industry has turned into it's just the Wild West now. It's so much music is created for that 30-second clip on Instagram. And as current as I try to be, I am so rooted in songwriting and storytelling and authenticity. And um, did you hear my single, I'm Jolene?
I did.
You did.
It's
It's my
really good.
response to Dolly's song, Jolene. That's one of the songs that's on my EP that's coming out as well. So that's been one of my crowning jewels of this whole EP that's coming out.
It's amazing because I don't think anybody's done that. And I don't think anybody's done a response track song to Jolene. So,
There's been a few spins. I've done a few deep dives myself, like looking to see what else is out there because it feels like such an original
mhm.
idea. There's been a couple of responses, so there's a lot of Jolene's out there.
But not one called I'm Jolene, right?
No, this is
Okay.
the only one.
Okay. Yeah, it's really good. Is there a story you can share about what led to the making of that particular song?
I was bored. I didn't have anything to write about. But I was feeling really creatively stimulated and I just needed to do something. And that song came on while I was listening to, I don't know, Spotify or something. And I was like, huh, she sounds like she's singing about a redhead with green eyes and fair skin. And I'm like, that's me. Okay, so let's write a response. So it just started as a songwriting exercise, and I was fresh out of, I'm sorry, I'm plugging in my computer here. I was fresh off of a divorce, and I had started dating a guy, and turns out he was still married, and he didn't t I didn't know all the details, and so it was like, okay, I have a lot to pull from in my personal life, and the whole concept is Dolly and I would probably be really good friends if this guy hadn't lied to both of us. So I'm not over here trying to steal your man. It's just he's not wearing his wedding ring.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it made for a really interesting evolution of the song, and I brought it to my manager and co-writer at the time, John Ferreter, and he passed away probably about 6 years ago. Um, and yeah, he heard that song and he actually got that song to Dolly through his channel of people. He's a really incredible, was a really incredible person in the music industry. So. Yeah, there's a lot of personal tenderness behind that song from the origin of the song and the evolution of it and being able to record it with Ron Dante and that was the producer on it and I was raised on his music without he's one of those people where like you know all of his music but you probably don't know his name.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it was that whole that song I wrote and recorded about 6 years ago, and I've just been sitting on it because with the loss of John, it was really I didn't know what to do with it, and I wanted it to have its moment, but also I was grieving so much, and so it was really nice to finally let that song see the light of day and have its moment.
Did Dolly ever get to hear that?
Yeah, she emailed me.
How awesome is that? Is
It's
that
pretty
to me, that's like the
incredible.
cherry on the cake, right?
Yeah, I always compare it to I'm not Catholic, but if I got kissed on the forehead by the Pope, it's like I'm not country, I'm not a country artist, but the Queen of Country just kissed me on the forehead. That was amazing. So yeah, she kind of gave me her blessing and complimented the songwriting and the production of it, and she said she couldn't wait to see where it was going to go, and yeah.
Incredible. So, I mean, that to me is one of the highlights. You have a new EP coming out on the 28th, right? And it's the Deeper EP. There's a
Hmm.
title track, of course, which is out everywhere now. The
Yep.
title track in particular happens to be my favorite song of yours.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah,
Why?
because I think your voice is very well suited with the almost like lush, atmospheric kind of production approach,
Mm,
more so than like the band. And as much as I love your voice with just like a band, I think the sultry vocal kind of it really complements that almost like James Bond-esque backing track, which is very cool. And I don't know, to me, that's like a match made in heaven. Your voice in particular matches that kind of soundscape really, really well. And I love the hook because it's very the word that kept coming to me. I wrote some of this down because I was like, I don't want to forget these words. Submissive is something that I think about. Like the fact that when you get to the hook, it's like you're at the mercy of what you're trying, what the vocalist, in this case you, is trying to convey within the song. And I think that is something that should be um, recognized, really. I mean, I put here Deeper, the song is ethereal with an incredibly immersive vibe that takes you into the depths of what it means to be yearning for uncompromising intimacy. That's what I
yeah.
heard.
That's I love that interpretation. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful song, and to me that's I was like, this is the one. I know when I hear the song and I go, this is the song. This is the one that should be pushed. I like everything else, but this is the one that really spoke to me. And it's wonderful. So tell me about Deeper.
Well, I started writing it. I was in the shower and I was just playing with melodies, and the chorus kind of came to me, and I hopped on my bike and I was riding over to the Pilates studio, and I wrote probably half the song on my way on like a 10-minute bike ride. And I sent it over to my co-writer, Aaron Medina. And it was initially a kind of a joke back and forth because it had stemmed from a conversation that we had just started. And so I passed him this voice note, and then he passed one back to me, and it was just kind of like this playful back and forth. And then it evolved, and whoops, we wrote a really good song here. And there's so I have synesthesia where I see colors and textures and patterns when I hear music. And so that was kind of the main character in the music video is trying to capture um, some of the colors and then also elements, earth, air, fire, water. And again, it's a very intimate, personal song and um, interpreted very differently from person to person, which is a gift of music, I think. Um, yeah, and it's one of my favorite songs to perform. I really enjoy this one.
Yeah, it's a good one. And that song also brings to light I think, the growth that, at least to me, is apparent between where we last left off and where you are now. I think as a songwriter, at least to my ears, I can tell you can tell that more hours have been put into your craft. So, in your own opinion,
Mhm.
how do you feel about that? Do you feel like something's changed between your creative process between 3 years ago and now?
Yeah, definitely. My band has a very heavy influence on me. Like they're such a rock band. They're all rockers, and I'm a songwriter. So it's the rock and roll comes through because of the band, and all of the heart comes through because of my melodies and lyrics. And I think when I zoom out and I kind of see the arc that my music has made, and also I know where it's going because I've already got another album and another EP locked and loaded, ready to come out over the next year. So um, I just love live music. I love live instruments, but we're going a little bit more into bit more of the bluesy side of things rather than the rock side of things with the upcoming tracks I'm really excited about. So. Yeah, sorry, I kind of went all over the place in that
No,
answer.
it's okay. No, it's okay. So, blues, that was a natural transition for you to go in that direction just because of your
Yeah,
band?
all of my music has always had a very natural bluesy undertone
Hmm.
to it, especially when you take the rock out of it and it's just my vocals. It's like, no, there's a lot of blue colors in there. It's a lot of um, just because I was raised on Jeff Barry and Ron Dante and doo-wop music of the 50s and 60s and everything. And yeah, so I'm kind of excited to see where it transitions to, where it flows into, because I love having the influence of the musicians around me, but I've also become really, really rooted and stubborn in having my sound, and I'm less accommodating to other people coming in and leaving their fingerprints on my artwork.
I mean, that's the one thing that I think a lot of artists should be doing is find your own voice and use that as the centerpiece of everything else.
Mhm.
Um, I look at someone, I know she's who she is, but like I look at Lady Gaga and I go, it's apparent that she's a part of every single part of the creative process, whether that be visually, sound and vision, as David Bowie would say, sonically. Even though she's got a team of people working with her, it's very
Mhm.
apparent that it's her voice the entire time. She's steering the ship.
Yeah.
And I hear that with you. It's like, yes, you have a band and you've got a lot of great collaborators with you, but ultimately, you're the one steering the ship. You're the captain
Mhm.
of that ship. So I think that's very important to have that. Now, when it comes down to, I find this very fascinating. Everybody's got their own approach. Like you said, it's the Wild West right now. No, I don't even think anybody really knows what's going on, and we're all just trying our best to figure it out while we're doing it. So, what is your mindset with recording and releasing music? Is it kind of like this, what you're doing now? Let me release a few singles throughout the year, and then at the end, or at the beginning of the next year, I'll put out an EP. Or are you just, what's your approach really right now with that?
I'm in a unique situation right now because I have done the waterfall strategy, right? Like you release a single, you release a single. I put out, I think 5 singles in the last year, and then I'm putting out the EP with a brand new track on it. So there's a total of 6 or 7 songs. And the purpose behind that is it all comes down to data, right? Of like how many streams, so your Spotify numbers look good. And while that is very important to the business side of things, as an artist, I'm like, I don't care. I can't be driven by these digital numbers that are created by, that's a whole other part of the conversation. So I've done that and I see the purpose and the benefit and um, the intention behind the strategy, and I'm playing that game. After we put out this EP, I'll give you a little sneak peek of information. I'm dropping an entire album that I wrote with my other co-writer, Rome. We did a whole album of duets, and we're just gonna drop it all. Just here you go. Here's an album, like a proper album of I think 12 songs, and so we're just gonna drop it and go. And then I'm gonna start another waterfall release strategy with my next EP that comes out. So it's kind of there's a sense of freedom of just not putting strategy behind it and just being like, here's a whole body of work. It's out there now. Maybe we'll get it placed in a movie or something. I would love that. Um, but yeah, it's the Wild West.
Yeah, as a whatever you want to call me, it makes me yearn for the days of before, and that I think I just don't like it when art begins to lose its value.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of art loses its value these days just because of the way the system is set up, and people don't know any better. It's just that's just the way it is. And no one's really counteracting it either. There's no, I feel like we need like the Justice League of the way I envision it's like, God rest his soul, if someone like Prince would have still been with us, and like a bunch of other figureheads in a room, let them be the new curators of creating a new business model for people to still get properly compensated for their work, and let there be a new system in place that isn't like the one that it's currently in. See, I shouldn't be talking. Now I'm on a soapbox. My apologies, but I'm really passionate about this stuff because it means something to me. And I believe that artists need to get compensated for their work. You slave in the best of ways. You slave over your art. You slave over your work because it's a catharsis for you as an artist. And for that to just kind of just like, well, where's it going? What's it gonna do? What's it? And so my reaction to that is like, well, what can I do? I don't have a lot of followers. I don't have a lot of listeners, but at the very least, I can start talking about it. Start talking about it. Keep talking about it. Because that may open up some doors. You don't know who's listening. That's a positive here. You don't know who's listening to you. Or so I think we need more people who are passionate about music getting on TikTok or Instagram or wherever and talking about it. Saying, hey, I just heard the new single from Dani Hagan. It's awesome. And there's probably people that can really make some really decked out videos and whatnot promoting the artists that they love and calling attention to them. And I think we just need more people, especially more people of the youth of today doing these things, pushing, especially going for underground artists, people that maybe aren't getting that kind of attention or getting that kind of support. Go underground, explore. There's so many artists out there. If you go on Bandcamp, it's just like, whoa.
Well,
So,
that's the thing is back in the day when it was, Prince, artists needed the record labels. They needed the record labels to move them out to California, to get into the recording studio, to have access to get the recordings done and get it out on the radio. Now you can cut a whole album from your bedroom. Everybody can and does. And so we went from having such a small mass of artists, and now there's like, I don't know, I forget what the number is, but it's something ridiculous, like 100,000 songs released every Friday on Spotify. It's like, how do you get heard amongst all that noise? Like it's really um it's hard to make an impact because everybody's a bedroom pop star. Everybody has their own reality TV show on TikTok. And yeah, so that's kind of the conundrum of it, where it's incredible that everybody gets to be an artist, but now everybody is an artist.
yeah, everyone's an artist, but I think there's one thing I look for in artists, and that's we talked about at the beginning of all this. I want people who know how to write songs. And if they're
Mm.
going to come out with songs, if you're going to release a song, it better be a good song because you
Yeah.
have your entire lifetime to work towards that point. I believe in the 10,000 hour principle, right? So if you're saying, let me publish this tune for the world to hear, because that's the way it is now, anybody can hear whatever you release, it better be good. And I know that's a subjective thing to say, but at the end of the day, you know when you hear something that's got is well built. It's like when you have a good meal. You know
Yeah.
when you have something, no offense, when you have something at a fast food restaurant versus somewhere where it's like, oh, this was someone slaved over putting this thing together.
Yep.
This wonderful meal has been curated to the ninth degree. You know, it's just like, oh, wow, this is fabulous. That to me is how I view music. You know when you hear something that's got a lot of love and soul and heart put into it. And
Mhm.
that's what I look for. So at the very least, I go, um, I want to hear that from artists. So, and I think those are the artists that are going to stand out over everybody else. The ones that make songs that stick with you, memorable, that's never going to go away. That to me
Yeah.
is like, that is a not easy, but it's an equation that's been figured out time and time again throughout the course of history. We have at least 50 years of pop music that has been proven as such.
Mhm.
So let's follow that model. Let's look up to those artists, the artists that really like did it to me the right way. But hey, I'm done. I can keep going on for hours. This is about you. So, but I'm talking about you though, in a sense, because I'm saying you're one of those artists to me. You're somebody who is writing from that place. I mentioned earlier, like I think you write songs from the heart and it's evident, you know?
Thank you. Yeah. I say that I wrap up my heart in rock and roll, and I've had managers be like, you write about the same thing. Like you're always writing love songs. I'm like, well, have you figured out what type of artist I am yet? Like I there's that Sarah Bareilles song, not gonna write you a love song 'cause you asked for it. That's a song to her label trying to tell her what to write about. And that was the song that actually broke her career. So it's good to have people pushing you in different directions and think outside the box, and of course. Um, but yeah, sticking true to who you are as an artist, maintaining that authenticity, and you gotta play the game, you gotta play the trends, but also not let them shape you.
What is it? Is there a side of you that you feel you have yet to tap into as a singer? Because to me, your voice can apply itself to any genre of music, just about. You have that voice that's very fluid, um, almost like a chameleon type of vocalist. I think you can sing the rock stuff. You can sing jazz. You can go in a really, I can hear your voice would sound amazing, like on a really sultry jazz tune. I mean, R&B, trip hop, you name it. I think you can go in a million different directions if you want to do that kind of thing. But is there an area in particular that you would like to go to that you haven't gone into as far as like recorded music?
I'm excited to bring in a little bit more R&B flavoring into my music. I'm also kind of excited to pull back um on some like the big belty vocals. Like I'm sitting back into the softness of my voice every once in a while now, and I'm like, I actually really like it here. Like it's amazing that I can go there, but just because you can doesn't mean that you have to every single time. And that's, the beauty of being an artist is you get to go all the way over here and then come back and go all the way over there and just constantly redefine yourself and just because I'm belting over here, that's still very authentic, but I can be super soft and feminine and ethereal over here, and that's still authentically me as an artist. And sometimes the listeners can get stuck in what their perception of you is. And, uh, but yeah, you can't get too hung up on that. Like I'd rather explore all the different versions of myself because they're all me. So.
Do you find that playing live is still like the most engaging way to interact with an audience just because it's literally live and you know that you're going to have that instantaneous connection with your audience versus say you putting out a song online where it's like, well, who's going to hear this? When are they going to hear it? What's going to happen next?
For in my opinion, for myself, I'm a live performance artist. I always have been, I always will be. And the best way that I can describe the difference between listening to music, recorded music in your car, on your computer, whatever, that's great. But me having synesthesia, where I see colors and patterns and textures, I'll sometimes see stuff when I'm listening to a recording. But if you put me in the room with the instruments and I feel the frequencies, the vibrations coursing through my body, all around me, I am, I can get transported into like, I don't fully know how to describe it to people that don't have synesthesia, but it's like being inside of a fireworks display. Um, and that's the difference between live music and recorded music. And it's always been a struggle of mine. It's like, okay, how do I get my live performance energy and take that and bottle it in a recording? And that's always um, one of the first things that people always say to me. They're like, "Oh, I love your music, but you live." Like, well, if you put me in the room with people, that's where I shine and that's where I'm most fulfilled. Like I love recording. I love the process of writing and recording and that whole side of the music industry is very fulfilling to me. But when it comes to releasing music, like I would rather be up on a stage rather than pushing a playlist.
I can tell because I mean I haven't seen you live yet, but just based every time you post or I see a post of somebody that posted something of you on stage, I go, there it is. I go,
Mhm.
yes, you can tell it's like you really come alive and there's this like even through a phone I can see the energy coming through which is fantastic. I'm going, oh my God, like that's she knows what she's doing. She's rocking it, and you can tell the energy is just flowing between the way you interact with the audience as well. Like you said, you can tell it's very immediate that you are a performer as much as you are a vocalist. So
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So when it comes down to it, you have these plans coming up. So it sounds to me like you're going to be very busy. Are you going to be writing new songs along the way too, or is it just
Oh
you
yeah.
releasing stuff?
Both. That's something I've realized is I don't remember the last time that I sat down to complete a song. I've been so wrapped up in the business side of things, in the releasing and the promoting and the content creation and the social media game and everything that I feel very separated from my artistry because the business side has taken such priority. So I'm really hoping that over the summer I'll have an opportunity to actually sit with my creativity and write all the songs that I have marinating up in my head. And the good thing is that I do have a whole album and another EP ready to go. So I can hopefully have a well-oiled machine where I can keep spitting those out and find a better balance this year because I hit burnout really bad last year. And it was because I was just sacrificing myself to the music industry.
How do you manage that when you're an artist who feels like they cannot stop? Like, how do you manage burnout? Because I know that's something that like for me personally, like even like when I'm working on something, I sometimes don't realize it. It's like a train hitting a car and it just continues rolling anyway. And then it's not until like weeks later you're like, oh, I've taken some damage, but you didn't realize it because you're just gung ho on moving forward. There is no stopping. So how do you manage that burnout?
Sorry, I'm just changing angles because my light died, but I have natural light right here. So,
It's okay.
um, I balance is so important and it takes such effort. I move my body every day, put my feet in the grass. I have a little list on my phone of like, okay, when I start to forget how to take care of myself, let's go look at this list. And it says have a glass of water, put your feet in the grass, find somebody to hug. and pick up your instrument. And there's probably a couple other really good things in there as well. But um, yeah, that finding that balance and learning when to unplug and say no and um, I don't have it figured out. That's what I'm struggling with, obviously. Um, but yeah, it's balance. Physicality is big for me. So I do Pilates every single day, and that always helps me to stay rooted and connected with my body, which allows me to stay connected with my creativity.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody's got a different approach, but that's great to hear. I think a lot of people need to realize like it's okay to stop every once in a while,
Mhm.
right?
It is, but at the same time, like, so I hit burnout right before my last single released, and I was like, okay, I got to push through. And at the end of November, so I took the end of November, December, January off, and I was just like, okay, I need recovery time from all of this. And I had because we had done this waterfall release where one leads into the next, like every 6 to 8 weeks, there was another single coming out. All of the data was amazing. The numbers on Spotify were really high, and there was this um, the waterfall effect, this avalanche effect, or a snowball effect, right? Where like you rolling a snowball, it keeps getting bigger. But when you stop pushing the snowball, it starts to melt. And come February, I'm like, then my numbers like they dropped. The data's not as good because I needed a break, and that's the nature of the industry and the social media era that we're living in, and it's relentless. And you almost if you take a break, fine, but you got to be willing to start over again.
Do you find you have people though that always come back? Like people that follow you, people that listen to you already, that hard you're slowly developing this hardcore fan base that's no matter where how much time you take off, they're gonna be there for you. I'm sure you have people like that, right?
I do, and especially here in LA, I've got an incredible music community that always turns up for me. And that's the point is to find the fans that are actually fans and
Mhm.
not just fair weather. I'm interested for as long as I can scroll on my phone. Like there's more substance than that, and that's what I'm always looking for is that actual connection that's not severed by somebody taking a moment for a breath.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that's what's important in the long term is just every now and then get a few people that are gonna stick around no matter
Mhm.
what. They're the real fans, and those are the ones that, no offense, but those are the ones that matter. Those are the people
Yeah.
that you want in your life, the ones that are through thick and thin, they're there for you. So,
Oh, you know what I do for burnout, or that I
yeah.
should do that I don't do often enough? Paint. I don't remember
Oh,
the last
yeah.
time I broke up my paintbrushes. I call it creative cross training, where like I'm just so hyper creative. There's always something going on creatively, but I get burned out on music. So I need to take a pause from music, but I still have this creativity running rampant through my body. So if I turn off my music brain and I just go into creative brain and just paint for a night, I will wake up completely rejuvenated and ready to jump back into music. And so it's this creative cross training, and I don't do it often enough.
What's your approach to painting? Are you more of a freelance? When I say freelance, I mean more so like, are you that's the wrong word, stream of consciousness kind of painter? More like, are you like that where you just let it happen?
I That's one of my bigger pieces back there. It's a guitar.
That's amazing.
Um, so I usually find like a photograph that inspires me, and a lot of times it's the female form or something celestial or musical. And so I'll have something to guide, and then I stop thinking and just do. I'm not a trained painter. I've never taken a lesson before, so it's very amateur, but it turns out I'm kind of good at it. And again, it's just so healthy for my brain and my creativity to lean into that every once in a while. And I just note to self, I got to do that this week.
That guitar is amateur. I'm like, that is a good painting. I don't know. At
Well, thank
least to
you.
me, I'm like, that's cool. Watch me paint. You're gonna be like, what? That's no, I'm amateur. That's awesome. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
no, that's cool. I mean, again, every it goes to show you every artist has their own way of getting through. But I think it's really important for our mental health, especially these days. I know I'm such an advocate for mental health, and I love when people are open about that. I'm glad that more people are talking about it these days. I think
Yeah.
before it used to be like something that would be you'd be marginalized or people would look at it, frown upon that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it's nice to just have an awareness. And we're not saying to falter. And if you do, fine, but we'll get over it. We'll help. But it's nice for it to be part of the conversation now.
Hmm.
So I think that's important that artists continue to talk about these things because it helps people realize that they're not alone, you know?
Well, and that circles back around to my song Deeper, because
Mhm.
it's about intimacy in a relationship as well as with oneself. And it's about going deeper into your emotions. And the primary focus of that song is talking about love and connection, but it also is intended to like one of my superpowers is I have an incredible well of emotional depth where I can go into the deep and I can hold my own and I can kind of go into all these different corners of my emotions and feel them so deeply, but also return back to my center. And um, a lot of people live from the neck up and they're disconnected from their hearts and their bodies and their spirit. And that's a connection that I have that's very strong. So one of my superpowers is being able to go into these emotional states, put lyrics to them that can speak to somebody else where they're like, oh, that's what I was feeling. That's what I was afraid to lean into. And that's the power of music. Music picks up where words leave off type of thing, you know? And I think it's really important to, if you are feeling sad, then be sad. If you're grieving the loss of somebody, for me, I let it just wash over me and consume me, and then I can let it go and I can get up and keep and you know, everybody's wired a little bit differently, but um I have very big emotions.
Or would you consider yourself to be an empathic being?
Hmm. Very.
I get that. I can't be in a room with a certain vibe for too long because it'll attach itself to me and I'm like, I gotta go. This is not a good vibe here.
I wear crystals. I am
I've
so
got stuff.
intentional. And I've learned how to um I don't want to use the word guard, but how to safe keep myself. And so I can still be a compassionate, loving, empathetic person without taking on everybody's energies because that was so crumbling for me before I had the tools of how to like prioritize my self-preservation. Um, as a little empath, as a little kid, it was like I just carried the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was so devastated by every homeless person, and it would just I would crumble underneath it. And I've become much stronger in taking care of myself and makes me better at taking care of those around me as well. Whether it be through teaching people Pilates and teaching them about that mind-body connection and finding a strength in their own presence, or through music and being that place, that safe place for people to go to escape to explore their own experience through, and to connect through. So, and that's the other side of me that I don't get to talk about a whole lot is I'm a healer by nature, and that comes through musically and physically and energetically. So
Absolutely. I think again, that's a wonderful superpower on top of the other superpower that you have, where you get to see colors through sound.
yes,
This is wonderful. I mean, that I think another person I heard that has that is Lorde, the artist. I
yeah.
remember reading about her having that as well. I'm like, that is so cool. I wish I could see music through colors. That's
Quite
amazing.
a few artists do have it. I think Billie Eilish has it, Maggie Rogers has it. Um, it's I didn't know that I had it until I read about it in a textbook, and I was like, that's a condition. I thought that was just normal. So,
That's awesome. So before we wrap up, I would like to know for for listeners who are just getting introduced to your music, what would you like them to take away from your songs?
mm, to find their own story in it, their their own way to relate to it, their own interpretation, and I want my music to allow people into the depths of their own experiences and emotions and amplify that because we live in a culture that really wants to put a wet blanket over extreme emotions and keep you in lane and keep you working and keeping you, you know, um, I don't know. I think there's music offers me such a freedom in life and just exploring my own experience. And so I hope that I can be that for other people.
It's great to hear. And for everybody watching this right now, please check out Danny Hagan, new EP, Deeper, coming out March 28th. Very excited to have that collection of tunes all together for everybody to explore, check out, and whatnot. So, Danny, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love speaking with you. Let's do it again next time you have a new release.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Max. You're the best.